My name is Sarah, and I'm writing this from a dimly lit room in an old, decaying mansion. It's a place so chilling that merely thinking about it sends shivers down my spine. I never imagined I would find myself here, trapped in the darkness of what I've come to call the Forgotten Room. It all began when I inherited this forsaken mansion from my estranged great-uncle, Maxwell. He was a recluse, a man whose name was spoken in hushed tones at family gatherings, someone who had chosen to distance himself from the world. Nobody had seen him for years, and most of us had forgotten about his existence entirely. But when I received the lawyer's letter informing me of my inheritance, it felt like an invitation to unravel the mysteries surrounding my family's dark history. Upon arrival, the mansion loomed before me like a malevolent giant, its weathered stone facade covered in vines, and its windows veiled in dust and grime. The front door groaned in protest as I pushed it open, as though it hadn't been disturbed in ages. A stale, musty odor filled the air, and the walls seemed to echo with secrets and regrets. As I ventured further inside, the mansion unveiled its secrets one by one. Rooms filled with antique furniture covered in dust cloths, portraits of unfamiliar faces staring back at me from the walls, and an eerie silence that clung to the air like a ghostly presence. But the strangest discovery of all was the one that led me to this very room. It happened on the third day of my stay. I was exploring the house, gradually making my way through the labyrinthine corridors, when I noticed a peculiar door. It was small and inconspicuous, blending seamlessly with the faded wallpaper. The brass knob felt cold to the touch as I turned it, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. With a flicker of curiosity and an odd sense of foreboding, I descended the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the confined space. At the bottom, I found myself in a dimly lit chamber that seemed to have been forgotten by time itself. The room was cramped, filled with old, dusty books that lined the walls, their leather-bound covers cracked and brittle. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and a single flickering candle provided the only source of light. I began to explore the room, and the more I unearthed, the more my heart raced with trepidation. On a rickety wooden table, I found an old journal. Its pages were yellowed with age, and as I turned them, I was drawn into the chilling narrative of my great-uncle, Maxwell. Maxwell's words revealed a descent into madness, a darkness that consumed him as he delved into forbidden knowledge. He wrote of strange rituals, whispered incantations, and a longing for something beyond the grasp of mortal comprehension. His obsession with a hidden power, an entity known only as the Dweller, had led him down a path from which there was no return. The journal was filled with cryptic drawings and passages that sent shivers down my spine. Maxwell spoke of a ritual to summon the Dweller, a ritual he had attempted in this very room. The details were gruesome, involving bloodletting and the sacrifice of a living soul. He had believed that the Dweller could grant unimaginable power and immortality in exchange for the most sinister of bargains. As I read on, my heart pounded in my chest, for the journal hinted at a horrifying truth. Maxwell had succeeded in summoning the Dweller, and in doing so, he had unleashed a malevolent force upon the mansion. His entries grew more frantic, describing strange occurrences, disembodied voices, and nightmarish visions. He wrote of doors that appeared where there were none before, and of whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls. My descent into Maxwell's madness had only just begun. I decided to spend my nights in the Forgotten Room, hoping to uncover the truth and put an end to whatever horror my great-uncle had unleashed. Each night, as I lay on the creaking bed in that forsaken chamber, I heard the faintest of whispers. They were indistinct, like voices from a distant dream, and they spoke of unspeakable horrors and the hunger of the Dweller. The room itself seemed to change when darkness fell. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on grotesque forms, and I often felt a chilling presence at the edge of my perception. It was as though something ancient and malevolent lurked just beyond the candle's feeble light, watching and waiting. One fateful night, as I lay there listening to the whispers, the candle flickered and went out. Panic seized me as I fumbled for a match, and in that moment of darkness, I heard a soft, guttural growl emanating from the corner of the room. My heart pounded as I struck a match and, in the dim light, saw a shapeless, shadowy figure looming in the corner. I screamed, scrambling for the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as though the room itself had conspired against me, trapping me in its suffocating grasp. The shadowy figure advanced, its movements jerky and unnatural, and I could feel its malevolence enveloping me like a suffocating shroud. In my terror, I remembered Maxwell's journal and the ritual he had performed. Desperation gripped me, and I whispered the incantation in a voice that trembled with fear. The room seemed to quake, and the shadowy figure recoiled, its form wavering as though in pain. It let out a blood-curdling shriek, and then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. The candle flickered back to life, and the room returned to its eerie stillness. I was left trembling, my mind reeling from the encounter. I knew then that I had come face to face with the Dweller, the entity my great-uncle had summoned, and that I had narrowly escaped its clutches. But the horror was far from over. I spent restless nights in that room, haunted by nightmares and visions of unspeakable horrors. I saw faces contorted in agony, heard agonized cries for release, and felt the oppressive weight of despair that seemed to seep from the very walls. The mansion itself seemed to conspire against me, its corridors shifting and changing as though to confuse and ensnare me. As the days turned into weeks, I grew weaker, my sanity slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. I knew that I couldn't stay in this place any longer, that I had to find a way to break the curse that bound me to this mansion, and banish the Dweller back to whatever abyss it had come from. With every ounce of strength left in me, I scoured Maxwell's journal for answers. I discovered a passage that spoke of a hidden chamber beneath the mansion, a chamber where the Dweller had been imprisoned before Maxwell's ill-fated summoning. It was said that the chamber could only be accessed through a door that appeared and disappeared at will, and that it was the key to banishing the Dweller. Armed with this knowledge, I embarked on a perilous journey through the ever-shifting corridors of the mansion, searching for the elusive door. It seemed as though the very walls conspired to keep me from my goal, leading me in circles and testing my resolve. But I pressed on, driven by a desperate determination to free myself from this nightmare. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of torment, I found it a door that had materialized out of thin air. With trembling hands, I pushed it open and descended into the chamber below. The air grew colder with each step, and a palpable sense of dread hung in the air. In the center of the chamber, I found a grotesque altar, and on it lay a withered, ancient tome. It was the source of the Dweller's power, the source of Maxwell's madness. With a trembling hand, I recited the words of banishment, my voice echoing through the chamber. The tome burst into flames, and the ground shook beneath me. As I fled the chamber, I felt a surge of cold energy rush past me, and I knew that the Dweller had been vanquished. The mansion itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as I ascended to the surface, and the oppressive atmosphere that had haunted me for so long began to dissipate. I left the mansion that day, never looking back, and I have never spoken of the horrors I endured within its walls. The forgotten room, with its secrets and its malevolent presence, remains locked in the past, a chapter of my family's history that I hope will fade into obscurity. But there are nights when I lie awake, haunted by the memories of that room and the malevolent force that dwelled within it. I can still hear the whispers, faint and distant, and I wonder if the Dweller truly is gone, or if it lingers in the shadows, waiting for another unsuspecting soul to stumble upon its secrets and become ensnared in its web of horror. The mansion still stands, a looming specter on the landscape, a place of darkness and despair, and I pray that it remains forgotten, a relic of the past, lest it ensnare another unfortunate soul in its web of terror, just as it did to me. For the darkness that dwells in the heart of that mansion, in the depths of the forgotten room, is a darkness that can never truly be banished. It is a darkness that lingers, waiting for the curious and the unwary, ready to consume their souls in its unending hunger for power and despair. And so, I share this tale as a warning to all who would dare to seek out the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows. For some horrors are better left undisturbed, and some rooms are best left forgotten.